For 12 years, her husband beat her for smiling at strangers on a November night in 2023. After he killed the baby she'd carried for 3 months, she faked her own death to escape. 300 miles away, with nothing but a locket and the clothes on her back, she sat shivering on a bench. No money, no plan, just the hope that freezing to death might be easier than going back. That's when Rowan Ashford pulled over, a widowed father drowning under the weight of 5 grieving children. He offered her something no one had in over a decade, a choice. This is the story of a woman who rebuilt herself while hiding from a monster. A family that chose love over blood. And the moment a predator's perfect life unraveled in a courtroom because one person decided to stop when everyone else drove past.
For 12 years, her husband convinced her she was worthless until the night he killed the baby she'd carried for 3 months. Until she faked her own death to escape. Until a stranger found her on a bench with nothing but the clothes on her back and offered her something she'd never had. A choice Rowan Ashford gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary, knuckles white against the black leather. The dashboard clock blinked 9:47 p.m. late. Again, the accounting firm had needed those reports finished tonight. And he'd stayed behind while his kids sat at his mother's house 3 miles away. 5 of them, all 8 years old, born on the same day, in the same hour, and they'd never let him forget it. Dorothy Ashford had been kind enough to watch them after school, but Rowan could hear the exhaustion in her voice when he'd called to say he'd be late. 78 years old and still picking up his slack, he couldn't keep doing this. The streetlights cast long shadows across the empty road as Rowan turned onto Maple Street. That's when he saw her. A woman sat hunched on a wooden bench near the bus stop, arms wrapped around herself, trembling in the November cold. Her blonde hair caught the orange glow of the streetlight. And even from a distance, even through the rain-spotted windshield, Rowan could see she had nothing. No coat, no bag, just the thin dress she wore. He should keep driving. God knows he had enough problems. 5 kids who hadn't had a stable caretaker in 2 years. A mother who was doing her best, but couldn't keep up with quintuplets forever. A job that demanded more hours than he had to give. But his foot hit the brake before his mind could argue. Rowan pulled over, left the engine running, stepped out into the cold air that bit at his face like tiny knives. "Miss?" His voice carried across the empty street. "Are you all right?" The woman's head snapped up, and Rowan saw fear flash across her face, raw, primal fear that made him take an instinctive step back. Hands raised. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quickly, not moving closer, not crowding her space. You're shivering. It's freezing out here, up close." He could see her better. 30-something, straight blonde hair that fell past her shoulders, with a fringe that partially hid her eyes. Those eyes, hazel green and haunted. They stared at him with a mixture of suspicion and desperation that Rowan recognized from his own mirror some days. "I'm fine," she whispered it, but her voice cracked on the word like thin ice underweight. "You're not fine." Rowan kept his distance, kept his voice gentle the way he did when Finn had nightmares and couldn't explain why. "When's the last time you ate?" She didn't answer. Her gaze dropped to her hands. That's when Rowan noticed the bruises on her wrists red-brown marks in the perfect shape of fingers. Marks that told stories he didn't need to hear to understand. Something in his chest tightened. Something that felt like anger and grief mixed together until he couldn't tell them apart. Look, Rowan chose his words carefully. I'm not asking for your life story, but it's going to drop below freezing tonight. There's a diner 2 blocks from here. Let me buy you a meal at least. I don't have any money to pay you back. I'm not asking you to. The woman looked up at this stranger. This tired-looking man with kind, gray-green eyes and worry lines etched deep into his forehead, like someone had carved them there with intention. And she felt something she hadn't felt in months, hope small and fragile. But there, why? She asked it like the word hurt. Rowan ran a hand through his short brown hair, let out a breath that clouded in the cold air. Because someone helped me once when I needed it. He paused. Met her eyes, because you look like you need it now. Another pause. And because I'd want someone to do the same if it was someone I cared about, sitting out here alone. Evangeline Hart stood slowly. Her legs stiff from sitting for hours, she swayed slightly. And Rowan instinctively reached out to steady her, then stopped himself when she flinched. Sorry. His voice went softer. I've got 5 kids at home. I'm used to catching people before they fall, 5. Despite everything, surprise colored her voice. Quintuplets. Rowan's smile was tired but genuine. It's chaos. Complete, beautiful chaos. They walked to his car, and Eva hesitated at the passenger door, her hand on the handle but not pulling. I promise I'm not a serial killer, Rowan said, slight smile. Though I understand if you don't want to get in. I can just give you money for the diner if you'd prefer. But Eva was already opening the door. What did she have to lose? She'd already lost everything. The diner was nearly empty, just an older couple in the corner booth and a waitress who looked ready for her shift to end. The kind of place that smelled like coffee and old grease and had seen better decades. Rowan ordered coffee and a burger for himself. Then looked at Eva. Get whatever you want. She ordered soup and bread, her stomach too knotted to handle anything heavier. When the waitress left, an awkward silence settled between them like an unwelcome third party. I'm Rowan. He wrapped his hands around his coffee mug. Rowan Ashford, Evangeline. She didn't give her last name. Hart belonged to her old life, to Preston. And she wasn't sure she wanted to carry it anymore. So, Evangeline. Rowan took a sip of his coffee. Are you from around here? No. That was true enough. I just arrived today. She'd taken a bus as far as Dr. Ellis's money would take her. Ended up in this small town she'd never heard of before. Fairhaven. Population 12,000. The kind of place where people probably knew their neighbors' names. Then her bag had been stolen within hours, leaving her with nothing but the clothes on her back and the one thing she'd kept in her pocket. A small locket that had belonged to her mother. Do you have somewhere to stay? Eva's silence was answer. Enough Ron studied her for a long moment. He was good at reading people. Had to be with 5 kids who each had their own ways of hiding pain. Wyatt got quiet and controlled. Tucker asked too many questions. Bryn got angry. Finn withdrew completely. And Harper cried when she thought no one was watching. This woman was running from something. The bruises, the fear in her eyes, the way she sat angled toward the exit, like she might need to bolt at any second. It all told the same story. He should offer her money for a motel. That would be the smart thing, the safe thing. Instead, he heard himself say, I have a guest room? Eva's head snapped up. What? I'm serious. Even as the words left his mouth, Rowan wondered if he'd lost his mind, if grief and exhaustion had finally pushed him over some invisible edge. It's not much. And my house is, well, like I said, it's chaos. But it's warm. It's safe. And you'd have a roof over your head. You don't even know me. No. Rowan admitted it easily. But I know what it's like to feel like you're drowning. And I know what it's like when someone throws you a rope. He met her eyes. Held them? I'm not expecting anything. You can leave whenever you want. But right now, you need help. And I'm offering it. Eva felt tears prick her eyes. After everything Preston had put her through, after years of cruelty disguised as marriage, after being told every single day that she was worthless, broken, a failure as a woman because her womb stayed empty, here was a stranger offering kindness with no strings attached. Why would you do that? Her voice barely above a whisper. You have kids. You don't know anything about me. I could be dangerous. 2 years ago, my wife died. Rowan's voice remained steady, but Eva could hear the pain beneath it, like a current under ice. Cancer. Left me with 5 6-year-olds who just watched their mother fade away. He looked down at his coffee. I was drowning. Couldn't keep help for more than 2 weeks. Work was suffering. The kids were suffering. I was barely keeping my head above water. He looked at her directly. I still am, if I'm being honest. Every person I hire to help quits within days. They all say the same thing. The quintuplets are too difficult. Too much to handle. Pause. And they're right. My kids are grieving. They're acting out. And I don't know how to help them anymore. Eva understood immediately. So you're not just offering me help. She said it without accusation. Just stating fact. You're hoping I might help you. I'm being selfish. Yes, Rowan didn't deny it. But I meant what I said. You need a place to stay. I have one. No pressure. If you want to just rest and leave tomorrow, that's fine. But if you're looking for something more, he trailed off, let the implication hang there. Room, and board in exchange for helping with the kids. It wasn't charity. It was a transaction, which somehow made it easier to accept. I've never taken care of children before, Eva said quietly. Have you ever been around chaos? Despite everything, a small smile tugged at her lips. Yes, I have. Then you're already qualified. Rowan's house was a modest 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood. Toys littered the front yard. A deflated soccer ball. A pink bicycle lying on its side. Chalk drawings covering the driveway in rainbow colors that rain had half washed away. Sorry about the mess, Rowan said as he unlocked the front door. Key sticking in the lock the way it always did. I gave up on perfection about 2 years ago. The inside was worse. Dishes piled in the sink. Backpacks and shoes scattered across the living room floor. Drawings taped haphazardly to the walls at child height. But despite the chaos, Eva could see traces of love, framed photos of 5 smiling children, a handmade world's best dad card on the fridge, a worn teddy bear tucked carefully on the couch. This wasn't neglect. This was survival. My mom probably put them to bed already, Rowan said. Glancing at the clock past 10, I'll show you to the guest room. Bathrooms down the hall. There's not much food in the house, but help yourself to whatever you find. He led her upstairs, past several closed doors where she could hear the soft sounds of sleeping children, to a small room at the end of the hall. It was sparse. A bed, a dresser, a small window overlooking the backyard. But it was clean and warm, and to Eva, it looked like paradise. Thank you, she whispered it. You have no idea what this means. Rowan paused in the doorway. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be loud. Fair warning. 5 8-year-olds wake up like alarm clocks at 6 a.m. After he left, Eva sat on the edge of the bed, let the tears finally fall. For the first time in 12 years, she'd spent an evening with a man who hadn't hurt her, hadn't belittled her, hadn't made her feel worthless. For the first time since she was 19, she felt like maybe she could breathe. She opened the locket around her neck. Her mother's face stared back at her, young and smiling, taken before the cancer, before Eva had learned what it meant to lose someone you loved. I'm trying, Mom, she whispered to the photo. I'm trying to be brave like you were. She closed the locket, lay down on the bed, and for the first time in months, she slept without nightmares. Across town, in a sprawling estate with perfectly manicured lawns, Preston Hart sat in his home office. The house was perfect. Sterile white marble and cold steel. A showroom, not a home. Evangeline had been another decoration here. Polished, displayed, breakable. The TV played in the background, local news. He wasn't really watching. Instead, he stared at the letter in his hand, insurance company, denying his claim. Due to the absence of physical remains and inconsistencies in the timeline of events, we are unable to process your claim for death benefits at this time. Further investigation is required. Preston smiled, slow and cold, set the letter down, picked up his phone, dialed a number he'd found through connections most people didn't have. Vincent Cole Investigations. The voice on the other end was gruff. Professional, Mr. Cole. I need someone found. Preston leaned back in his leather chair. My wife. She's supposed to be dead. But I don't think she is. What makes you think that? The insurance company can't find a body. Pause, and I know my wife. She's not clever, but she's desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. You want me to find her. I want you to confirm she's alive first. Then I want to know where she is, who she's with, what she's doing. That'll cost you. Money isn't an issue. Preston's voice went soft. Dangerous. Finding her is. I'll need details. Photos. Last known locations. Financial records. You'll have everything by morning. Preston ended the call, stood, walked to the window, looked out at the perfectly manicured lawn, the fountain in the center of the circular driveway, the life he'd built with his own hands and his own ruthlessness. Evangeline thought she could run, thought she could fake her death and disappear, thought she could escape him. She was wrong. She'd always belonged to him, and he always got what belonged to him. Morning came with the thunder of small feet. Eva jolted awake, disoriented, heart racing. For a horrible moment, she thought she was back in Preston's house, waiting for him to storm in with accusations, with fists, with that cold smile that said he was about to make her pay for some imagined slight. Then she remembered. She was safe. This was Rowan's home. She dressed quickly in the same clothes from yesterday. She had nothing else. Made her way downstairs following the sounds of chaos. The kitchen was a war zone. 5 children, 3 boys with short brown hair, 2 girls with long, curly brown locks, all talking over each other while Rowan attempted to make breakfast. Burnt toast sat abandoned on a plate. He was currently burning scrambled eggs while simultaneously trying to referee an argument about whose turn it was to use the blue bowl. Wyatt had it yesterday. Did not. Tucker had it. Finn spilled milk in it, so it doesn't count. Bryn stopped pulling Harper's hair. She started it. 5 pairs of eyes turned to stare at Eva, standing in the doorway. The room went silent. These children were beautiful. All of them with their father's gray-green eyes, varying shades of curiosity and suspicion written across their young faces. "Who are you?" This from Wyatt. The tallest of the boys, arms crossed defensively. "Kids, this is Evangeline," Rowan said, turning off the stove before he could burn anything else. "She's going to be staying with us for a while. She's going to help out around the house, like the other helpers." Bryn's voice was sharp, challenging. "They all left. I'm not a helper," Eva said quietly. All 5 children looked at her. "I'm someone who needs a place to stay. Your dad was kind enough to offer. That's all. Why?" Tucker, analytical, direct. "Tucker," Rowan warned. "It's okay." Eva met the boy's eyes, "because I didn't have anywhere else to go. And your dad is a good person. Are you sad?" Harper tilted her head, the quieter of the 2 girls. The question caught Eva off guard. "Children saw things adults tried to hide." "Yes," she answered honestly. "I am. But I'm trying not to be. Our mom died." Finn volunteered it matter-of-factly. "That made us sad too, Finn." Wyatt's voice was sharp. Protective Darian's expression tightened. But he didn't correct them. This was their way of processing. Blunt, honest. Searching for connection in shared pain. "I'm very sorry about your mom," Eva said gently. "Meaning it. That must be really hard. You're not her." Bryn said it fiercely, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Don't try to be, Bryn," Rowan started. "I don't want to be her," Eva interrupted, her voice firm but kind. "I couldn't be even if I tried. Your mom was special to you, and no one can replace her. I'm just Evangeline. That's all." Something in Bryn's expression shifted. The hardness cracking, just slightly. Rowan cleared his throat. "All right, everyone. Finish getting ready for school. The bus comes in 20 minutes, and half of you aren't even dressed." The children scattered like startled birds, leaving Rowan and Eva alone in the kitchen. Sorry about that, Rowan said, scraping the burnt eggs into the trash. They're protective of their mom's memory. And they've learned not to trust people who promise to stay. They shouldn't trust me. Eva's voice was quiet. They don't know me. But you were honest with them. That's more than most people give them. He started cracking fresh eggs into a bowl. You don't have to help, by the way. You can just rest today. But Eva was already picking up the dirty dishes. I'd like to help. If that's okay, for the first time since his wife died, Rowan felt like maybe the weight on his shoulders had shifted just slightly. Maybe he didn't have to carry everything alone. The first week was a test of endurance. The quintuplets were, as Rowan had warned, difficult. They tested Eva constantly, ignoring her requests, making messes she'd just cleaned, speaking to her only when absolutely necessary. Wyatt was the ringleader, the one who watched her with sharp, assessing eyes, waiting for her to fail like all the others. Bryn followed his lead, her grief manifesting as anger toward anyone who tried to fill the mother-shaped hole in their home. Tucker was quieter, but equally suspicious. Finn seemed willing to accept her, but took his cues from his siblings, and Harper wanted to trust, but was terrified of being hurt again. Eva understood. God, did she understand? She'd spent 12 years walking on eggshells, reading moods, trying to anticipate needs before they became demands. Those survival skills, born from abuse, somehow translated into patience these children desperately needed. She didn't push, didn't demand affection or gratitude. She just showed up. Every morning she made breakfast. Not perfectly. She burned things too at first, but she kept trying. She packed their lunches, making sure to remember that Wyatt hated mayonnaise. Bryn only ate strawberry jam. Tucker needed his sandwich cut diagonally. Finn liked extra juice. Harper wanted her carrots with ranch dressing. She learned without asking, just by watching. When they came home from school, she didn't bombard them with questions. She just made snacks available. Sat nearby doing small tasks. Present but not intrusive. Slowly, she almost didn't notice. They started softening. On the fifth night, Eva woke to the sound of her own screaming. She was back in Preston's house. He was standing over her, fists raised, that cold smile on his face. "You think you can leave me?" His voice echoed. "You're nothing without me." Nothing. She woke gasping, sweet-soaked, heart-hammering, found Rowan standing in the doorway, concern written across his face. "Sorry," she managed, voice shaking. "I didn't mean to wake you. Don't apologize." Rowan stayed in the doorway, didn't come closer, gave her space. "There's coffee downstairs if you need it. And if you want to talk," he paused. "I'm here." Eva nodded. Not trusting her voice, she went downstairs 20 minutes later. Found the coffee pot already made. Poured herself a cup, sat at the kitchen table. That's when she noticed Finn. The boy was sitting under the table, arms wrapped around his knees. Rocking slightly, "Finn?" Eva set down her cup, got down on her knees. "Are you okay? Can't sleep?" His voice was small. "Bad dreams?" Eva understood that language. "Me too." She sat down, Not under the table with him, but close enough. About your mom. Finn shook his head. About being alone, about everyone leaving. Eva's heart broke. I'm sorry. Do you have bad dreams too? Yes. About what? Eva considered lying, considered giving him some sanitized version, but these kids deserved honesty about someone who hurt me. Finn was quiet for a moment. Then he reached out, placed his small hand on hers. I'm sorry someone hurt you. They sat there together in the pre-dawn darkness, not speaking, just existing in their shared understanding of pain. When Rowan came down at 5:30 to start breakfast, he found them both asleep. Eva leaning against the table leg. Finn curled up under the table with his head on her lap. Something in Rowan's chest tightened. He grabbed a blanket from the couch, draped it gently over both of them, left them sleeping. It was Finn who cracked first. Week 3, Eva was folding laundry in the living room when he appeared, clutching a wrinkled piece of paper, looking miserable. Can you help me? His voice was small, uncertain, of course. What do you need? He showed her the paper, a drawing assignment for school. We're supposed to draw our family, but I don't know how to draw Mom anymore. His voice cracked. I can't remember exactly what she looked like. Eva's heart shattered. Can I see photos of her? Finn led her to Rowan's study, a room she hadn't entered before. There on the desk sat a framed photo. A beautiful woman with warm brown eyes and a bright smile, holding 5 babies. Newborns swaddled in rainbow-colored blankets. She was beautiful, Eva said softly. Meaning it? Your dad keeps her picture here so he can remember her while he works. That's love. Finn, do you have pictures of your mom? Eva touched the locket around her neck. Just one. In here. She died when I was young too. Did you forget what she looked like? Sometimes the details get fuzzy. Eva admitted, being honest with him. But I never forgot how she made me feel. Safe. Loved. That doesn't fade even when faces do. Finn considered this. Dad says Mom loved us more than anything. Even when she was sick and the medicine made her tired, she still read us stories. Then that's what you draw. Eva suggested gently, not just what she looked like, but what she did. Draw her reading to you. Draw the feeling. Finn's face lit up. He sat at the coffee table. Eva sat across from him, folding laundry while he drew. He didn't ask her to help with the actual drawing. He just wanted someone there. Someone who understood that grief wasn't something you got over, but something you learned to carry. When Rowan came home that evening and saw Finn's drawing, his mother reading to 5 small figures on a couch, he had to step outside. Eva found him on the porch, shooters shaking. I couldn't help him with that, Rowan said roughly. Not looking at her. Every time they ask about her, I freeze. I don't know how to talk about her without falling apart. You don't have to have all the answers, Eva said quietly, standing beside him but not touching. You just have to be there. You're doing better than you think. Rowan looked at her, really looked, and for the first time wondered about the scars she carried. She'd been with them for 3 weeks, and he knew nothing about her except that she'd been hurt, and she'd needed help. But she hadn't asked for anything. hadn't demanded explanations for his grief or the chaos. She'd just quietly become part of the fabric of their broken little household. "Thank you," he said, meaning it. For helping him, he helped me too. Eva's voice was soft. And it was true. These children, with their raw grief and honest emotions, were teaching her that it was okay to feel, okay to hurt, okay to heal. That night, after the kids were asleep, Rowan sat at his computer in the study, week 4 now, a month since he'd found Ava on that bench. He told himself he was just being cautious, just being a responsible parent. He typed Evangeline into the search bar, then stopped, a dead. Missing person November, hit enter, the results loaded, and there it was, third result down, Evangeline Hart, 33, presumed dead in house fire. The article was dated 4 weeks ago. Rowan clicked it. I'd read the details. A house fire in the suburbs. No body recovered, but belongings confirmed. Husband Preston Hart devastated by the loss. There was a photo of Preston handsome, successful looking, wearing an expensive suit and a grief-stricken expression that looked practiced. Dorian's stomach turned. He clicked through more articles. Prominent businessman Los's wife in tragic fire. Community mourns Evangeline Hart. Preston Hart establishes memorial fund in wife's name. All the articles painted Preston as a grieving husband, a pillar of the community, a man destroyed by loss. But Rowan saw the bruises on Eva's wrists, heard the terror in her nightmares, watched the way she flinched at sudden movements. He closed the browser, sat in the darkness, thinking. The next morning, when Eva came downstairs, Rowan was already making coffee. He poured her a cup, handed it to her. "Whatever your past is," he said quietly, meeting her eyes, "whatever you're running from, you're safe here. I promise." Eva's hands shook, the coffee cup rattling slightly. You know? "I know enough." Rowan's voice was gentle. "And I know that whatever happened, you didn't deserve it." Tears spilled down her cheeks. She'd been so careful, so cautious. And he'd figured it out anyway. "I didn't kill anyone," she whispered. "I know, I had to get away. And there was no other way, I know." Rowan set down his own cup. "You don't have to explain. Not unless you want to. But you should know that nothing you tell me will make me ask you to leave." Eva looked at this man, this stranger who'd become something close to a friend in 4 short weeks. "Why are you being so kind to me?" "Because everyone deserves kindness," Rowan said simply. "And because I think maybe we're helping each other." He paused. "The kids are doing better with you here. And I think maybe you're doing better too." Eva nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. They stood in comfortable silence, drinking their coffee as dawn broke outside. And Eva thought that maybe, just maybe, she'd found something she'd never had before. A place where she could be broken and healing at the same time. A place where her past didn't define her future. A place that felt like home. Preston Hart sat in his office. Vincent Cole's first report laid out in front of him. The private investigator had been thorough. Dr. Margaret Ellis, family physician, had treated Evangeline for years. Credit card records showed She'd purchased a bus ticket the night of the fire to a small town 300 miles away, Fairhaven. Preston smiled, picked up his phone. Mr. Cole. Excellent work. Now I need you to go to Fairhaven. Find her. But don't approach. Just watch. I want to know everything. Where she's staying, who she's with, what she's doing. You want surveillance. I want to know her entire life. Preston's voice went cold. And then I want to know the best way to destroy it. He hung up, stood, walked to the window. In 2 weeks, Vincent would have everything. Photos of Eva leaving a modest house with 5 children. Photos of her working at a small bookstore. Photos of her laughing, healing, building a new life. Preston would wait, bide his time, let her think she was safe, and then he'd strike. Because Evangeline needed to learn, you don't escape Preston Hart. You don't embarrass him. You don't make him look like a fool. And you certainly don't cost him $2 million in insurance money. She'd pay for all of it. By week 6, the house had found a rhythm. Eva woke at 5:30, made coffee, started breakfast. Rowan came down at 6. They worked in comfortable silence, passing each other utensils and plates like they'd doing this for years instead of weeks. The kids tumbled downstairs at 6:15. Chaos and noise and life. Eva packed lunches while Rowan refereed arguments. They walked the kids to the bus stop together. Came back to clean the kitchen. Then Rowan left for work, and Eva had 3 hours to herself before she needed to pick the kids up from school. She spent those hours walking, exploring Fairhaven, learning the rhythms of this small town, the coffee shop on Main Street, where everyone knew everyone's order, the library with its creaky floors and kind librarian, the park where mothers brought toddlers and old men played chess. It was normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. And Eva hadn't realized how much she'd craved normal until she had it. The kids came home at 3:30. She had snacks ready, gave them space to decompress, helped with homework when asked, started dinner while they played. Rowan came home at 6, later on bad days. But he always came home, always walked in with that tired smile that made Eva's chest warm. They ate dinner together. All 7 of them crowded around a table meant for 6, talking over each other, laughing, fighting, being a family. After dinner, the kids did more homework or watched TV while Rowan and Eva cleaned up, then baths and bedtime routines and story time. By 8:30, the house was quiet, and Rowan and Eva would sit in the living room, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing in comfortable silence. 2 broken people learning to be whole again. Together, it wasn't perfect. Eva still had nightmares, still flinched at loud noises, still had days where the weight of her past threatened to crush her. And Rowan still struggled, still felt guilty about moving on, still had moments where grief ambushed him and he had to lock himself in the bathroom to cry. But they had each other, and somehow that made the hard days bearable, made the good days beautiful, made this broken patchwork family feel like home. 5 months since that November night, 5 months since Rowan had found Eva shivering on a bench with nothing but fear and a locket around her neck. 5 months, and everything had changed. March arrived cold and wet, rain drumming against windows, wind rattling the old house. The kind of weather that made you grateful for warmth and shelter and people who cared. Eva stood at the bathroom mirror, studying her reflection. The bruises had faded completely months ago. The hollow look in her eyes had softened. She'd gained weight, not much, but enough that her clothes fit instead of hanging off her frame like she was disappearing. She looked almost like herself, whoever that was. The woman in the mirror wasn't the terrified girl Preston had married at 19. Wasn't the broken thing he'd systematically destroyed over 12 years. But she wasn't entirely new either. She was something in between healing, becoming, Evie. Harper's voice carried up the stairs. They'd started calling her that 2 months ago, Evie, a nickname she hadn't chosen, but somehow fit better than Evangeline ever had. Coming. She headed downstairs, found the kitchen in its usual state of controlled chaos. Rowan attempting to make pancakes while simultaneously helping Tucker with math homework. Wyatt packing lunches with military precision. Bryn and Finn arguing about whose turn it was to feed the goldfish they'd brought home from school last month. Harper sat at the table, drawing something with fierce concentration. This was what normal looked like. "Morning," Rowan said, glancing up from the pancake batter. His hair stuck up on one side, he had flour on his shirt, and he looked exhausted but content in a way that made Eva's chest tight. "Morning." She grabbed the spatula from his hand. "Go help Tucker?" "I've got breakfast, you sure?" "Rowan, you're about to burn the pan." He looked down. Smoke rising from the griddle. Right. Yes. Good call. He moved to Tucker's side, and Eva took over the pancakes, flipping them with practiced ease. A skill she'd learned in the last 5 months out of necessity, because Rowan Ashford could manage complex accounting, could wrangle 5 9-year-olds through grief and homework and bedtime routines, but he could not cook to save his life. "Evie." Bryn appeared at her elbow. "Can you do my hair before school?" Something warm bloomed in Eva's chest. Bryn asking for help had become routine now. But Eva remembered the first time, 2 weeks ago. Rain and tangles and tears, the breakthrough that had changed everything. It had been a Tuesday afternoon, rain drumming against the windows. Eva had been folding laundry when she heard it, crying coming from upstairs. She'd followed the sound to Bryn's room, found the girl sitting on the floor. Hair tangled into impossible knots, a broken brush in her hand, tears streaming down her face. "I can't do it." Bryn's voice had been thick with frustration and grief. "Mom always did it, and now it's all wrong, and I can't. Can I try?" Eva had stood in the doorway, not moving closer, giving Bryn space to say, "No, you'll just make it worse, maybe." Eva had kept her voice gentle. "But it can't get much more tangled than it already is." Bryn had laughed, a small, broken sound, but a laugh nonetheless. "Okay." Eva had sat on the bed. Bryn had sat in front of her, and Eva had worked through the tangles with patient fingers, not pulling, not rushing, just carefully untangling one small section at a time, and while she worked, she'd hummed a song her own mother used to sing before the cancer. Before Eva had learned what it meant to lose someone you loved, my mom used to brush my hair too, Eva had said softly. Every night before bed, she'd sing while she did it. What song? Eva had sung it then, soft and slightly off-key, but Bryn had relaxed by degrees, her shoulders dropping. Her breathing evening out. Your mom had curly hair too? She did. She always said it had a mind of its own. That's what my mom said. Bryn had twisted to look at Eva. Eyes wide, she said my hair was special, that it was strong and beautiful and wild. Just like me, your mom was right. When Eva had finished, Bryn had run to the mirror, touched her reflection with wonder. You made it look like when Mom did it. Then she'd turned, wrapped her arms around Eva's waist, hugged her with the fierce desperation of a child who'd been holding pain too long. Thank you, whispered into Eva's shirt. And Eva had held her back, tears streaming down her own face, two broken people finding comfort in each other. That night, Rowan had found them sitting together on Bryn's bed, the girl's head on Eva's shoulder. Both of them quiet but no longer alone in their pain. He'd stood in the doorway for a long moment, then quietly closed the door, left them to their healing. Now, in the kitchen, Eva braided Bryn's hair while the pancakes cooked. French braid. The way Bryn liked it. There, Eva tied off the end with a hair tie. All set, Bryn touched the braid, smiled, ran off to show Harper Rowan appeared at Eva's shoulder. You're good at this. His voice was quiet. Something in it made Eva's skin warm. At what? Being here. Being part of this, he gestured vaguely at the kitchen. The chaos. The 5 kids getting ready for school. You fit. Eva didn't know what to say to that, so she focused on the pancakes instead, flipping them onto a plate. But she felt Rowan's eyes on her, felt the weight of something unspoken hanging between them, something that had been growing for months now, something neither of them was brave enough to name. After the kids left for school, Eva walked to Second Chapter Books. The bookstore where she'd been working for 6 weeks now, since late March. It was a small place, tucked between a coffee shop and a pharmacy on Main Street. The kind of bookstore that smelled like old paper and possibility, Lorraine Price. The owner was 61, with silver hair and sharp eyes that saw too much. She'd taken one look at Eva on that first day back in late March and known, you're running from something, not a question, a statement. Eva had frozen, hand on the door, ready to bolt. How? Because I did the same thing 30 years ago. Lorraine had smiled, candid but sad. The scar on her wrist visible when she reached out to shake Eva's hand. I know the look. She'd hired Eva on the spot. Minimum wage. Part-time hours while the kids were at school. But it was Eva's. Her paycheck, her name on it, her independence. For the first time in 12 years, she had money that wasn't Preston's. Now, Eva shelved books in the fiction section while Lorraine worked the register. The bell above the door chimed. Eva glanced up. A man walked in, mid-40s, weathered face, the look of someone who'd seen too much. He browsed the mystery section. But Eva caught him watching her in the reflection of the window. Something cold slid down her spine. "Can I help you find something?" She kept her voice steady. "Professional. Just looking." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He bought a paperback. Paid cash. Left Eva stood frozen. Heart hammering. "You okay?" "Honey?" Lorraine appeared at her shoulder. "Fine. I'm fine." But she wasn't that man. The way he'd watched her, she'd seen that look before. Preston used to look at her like that. Like she was a problem he was solving. A puzzle he was taking apart, piece by piece. The man's name was Vincent Cole, and he sat in his car across the street from Second Chapter Books, writing notes, subject, Evangeline Hart, using name Evie, works at bookstore 9 a.m., 2:30 p.m. weekdays, lives at 447 Maple Street with Rowan Ashford, 37, CPA, and his 5 children, quintuplets, age 9. Appears to be acting as nanny housekeeper. No romantic indicators observed yet, but subject is comfortable in household. Recommend continued surveillance. Vincent closed his notebook. Looked at the photo of Eva that Preston had given him. She looked different now, healthier. The haunted look in her eyes, not completely gone, but fading. She looked like someone learning to live again. Vincent had done this job for 20 years, tracked cheating spouses, found runaway teens, located witnesses who didn't want to be found. He'd seen a lot of people running from a lot of things, and he'd learned to tell the difference between someone running from consequences and someone running for their life. Evangeline Hart was running for her life. He'd seen the medical records Preston had accidentally left in the file, 12 years of documented injuries, broken bones, contusions, lacerations. And the final one, the miscarriage. Caused by blunt force trauma to the abdomen, Preston Hart was a monster, and Vincent was helping him hunt his victim. He started the car, drove away. He had a decision to make. That night, Eva couldn't sleep. She kept seeing the man's face, the way he'd studied her. At 2 a.m., she gave up, went downstairs for water. Found Rowan sitting at the kitchen table, laptop open, papers spread everywhere. Can't sleep either? He looked up, smiled tired, work stuff. Big client meeting tomorrow and the numbers aren't adding up. Eva poured herself water. Sat across from him. "Can I help?" "You know accounting?" "I know spreadsheets." Preston made me manage the household finances. She said his name without thinking, then froze. She'd been so careful not to talk about him. Not to bring her past into this house. But Rowan just nodded. "Show me what you've got." They worked in comfortable silence. Eva pointing out where he'd transposed numbers, where formulas were off. An hour later, everything balanced. "You're good at this," Rowan said. Leaning back in his chair, looking at her with something like admiration. "You should be doing this professionally. I don't have a degree. You have the skills. That matters more." He paused. "If you ever want to take accounting courses, I could help. My firm offers tuition assistance for family members. Family." The word hung in the air between them. I know, Rowan cut her off gently. "But you're part of this household, part of the kids' lives, part of..." He trailed off, looked away, part of mine. Eva's breath caught. Rowan, you don't have to say anything. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that this isn't temporary for me. You're not temporary. He stood, gathered his papers. Get some sleep, Evie. Tomorrow's going to be long. He left her sitting at the table, heart racing, mind spinning, because she felt it too. This pull between them, this connection that had been building since that first night on the bench. But she couldn't. She was broken, damaged, still legally married to a man who thought she was dead. What did she have to offer someone like Rowan? The next morning, there was a knock at the door. Eva was in the kitchen when she heard it, Ryan already at work, the kids at school. She opened the door to find a woman in a gray suit, clipboard in hand, official-looking badge clipped to her belt. I'm looking for Rowan Ashford. He's at work. Can I help you? And you are? The woman's eyes were cold, assessing. Evangeline. I help with the children, I see. The woman made a note on her clipboard. I'm with Child Protective Services. We've received a complaint that Mr. Ashford may be housing a fugitive, someone who faked their own death. Is that you, Evangeline? The world tilted. Eva grabbed the door frame. Knees suddenly weak? I don't. We'll need to speak with Mr. Ashford. And we'll need to conduct a home inspection. If he's harboring someone who's committed fraud, he could lose custody of his children. The woman handed Eva a card. Have him call this number today. She left. And Eva stood in the doorway. Trembling Preston. This was Preston. He'd found her. And now he was going to destroy everything. When Rowan came home that evening, Eva was packing. He found her in the guest room, shoving clothes into a bag with shaking hands. What are you doing? His voice was sharp with alarm. I have to go. Eva didn't look at him. Couldn't look at him. CPS came today. Someone reported you. Said you're harboring a fugitive. If I stay, you'll lose your kids. Evie, I can't let that happen. Her voice cracked. Those children need you. They've already lost their mother. They can't lose you too. Stop. Rowan crossed the room, put his hands on her shoulders, gentle but firm. Look at me, she did, and saw something fierce in his eyes, something that made her chest tight. I love you. The words fell between them like stones in still water, creating ripples that would change everything. What? Her voice, barely a whisper. I love you, Evie. I know this is crazy. I know we've only known each other 5 months, but I love you. He took a breath. When you walk into a room, my whole world shifts. When you're not here, I wait for you. When I watch you with my kids, when I see how much you love them and how much they love you, I fall harder every single day. Rowan, you can't. How could I not? His voice was rough with emotion. You're the strongest person I know. You came here with nothing, broken by someone who should have cherished you. And you still chose to love my children. You rebuilt yourself while helping us heal. Tears streamed down Eva's face. I'm damaged. I'm still married. I faked my death. If I stay, you'll lose everything. Then we fight. Rowan's hands tighten on her shoulders. We fight together. You have evidence, right? Proof of what he did? Yes. Dr. Ellis kept records. Then we use them. We go to the police. We get you protected. We get him arrested. He's powerful, Rowan. He has money. Connections. He'll destroy us, maybe. Rowan's voice went soft, but I'm not letting you run. Not this time. Not when I just found you. I love you too. The words burst out of Eva before she could stop them. I've been so scared to even think it. Scared that wanting something good meant it would be taken away. Scared that you couldn't possibly feel the same about someone as broken as... Don't! Rowan cut her off, pulled her close. Don't call yourself broken. You're not. You never were. You survived. You're here. You're whole. Eva buried her face in his chest, let herself be held, let herself believe, just for a moment, that maybe this could work, that maybe she deserved this. What do we tell the kids? Her voice was muffled against his shirt. The truth. Rowan's hand stroked her hair, that we love each other, that this doesn't change how much we love them, that we're a family now. They might not understand. They're smarter than we think. They sat the kids down that evening, all 5 of them on the couch. Rowan and Eva in chairs facing them. We need to talk about something important, Rowan started. 5 pairs of eyes watched them with varying degrees of curiosity. Wyatt and Bryn exchanged a look. Then Bryn smiled. Finally, Eva blinked. What? You two have been making hard eyes at each other for like forever. We thought you'd never figure it out, Harper giggled. Grandma Dorothy said you were clearly smitten months ago. Wait. Rowan held up a hand. You knew? Everyone knew, Tucker said matter-of-factly. You're not exactly subtle, Finn nodded enthusiastically. We had a bet on when you'd finally do something about it. Bryn won. Rowan looked at Eva. Eva looked back, both of them torn between embarrassment and laughter. So you're okay with this? Eva asked carefully. With Dad and me being together? Evie. Harper stood, walked over, took Eva's hand. You've been ours for months now. Dad being happy with you just makes it official. You're our family, Bryn added. Her voice softer than usual. This just means Dad finally got smart enough to see what we've known all along. Which is? Rowan asked. The 5 children looked at each other, then back at their father and Eva. That you belong together, Wyatt said simply. All 7 of us. But the warm moment was shattered by reality. There's something else, Rowan said, his voice going serious. Someone reported us to Child Protective Services. Said I'm harboring a fugitive. They're going to investigate. The kids went quiet. Are they going to take us away? Finn's voice was small. No. Rowan's voice was firm, but we have to be smart. We have to fight this the right way. He looked at Eva, which means we need to get ahead of it. Find a lawyer, build a case. Make sure Preston can't hurt us. Who's Preston? Tucker asked. And Eva realized she'd never told them the whole story. She'd been part of their lives for 5 months, had become family. But they didn't know where she'd come from, what she was running from. He's my husband, Eva said quietly. The one who hurt you, Finn said, not a question, just understanding. Yes, then we fight him. Wyatt's voice was fierce. All of us. Together, and looking at these 5 children who'd claimed her as their own, Eva felt something she hadn't felt in years, not just hope, but certainty. She wasn't alone anymore. That same night, Vincent Cole sat in his office, staring at his phone, Preston Hart's number on the screen. He'd found Evangeline, done his job, had photos and addresses and a full report ready. All he had to do was call, get paid, move on to the next case. But he couldn't stop thinking about those medical records, about the photos of bruises and broken bones, about the miscarriage report that detailed blunt force trauma severe enough to cause internal bleeding. Vincent had a daughter, 16 now, living with her mother 3 states away. He hadn't been a good husband, hadn't been a good father. He'd been controlling, aggressive, had put his hands on his wife more than once when she disrespected him, until the day she'd taken their daughter and left. Best thing that ever happened to him. Forced him into therapy, into AAA, into actually dealing with his shit instead of taking it out on the people he claimed to love. He'd spent the last 10 years trying to be better, to make amends, to become someone his daughter might be proud of someday. And now he was helping a man hunt down the woman he'd abused for 12 years. Vincent picked up his phone, but he didn't call Preston. He called someone else. Janet Reeves' law office. Ms. Reeves, my name is Vincent Cole. I'm a private investigator, and I need to talk to you about a domestic violence case. December arrived with the first real snow. Eva stood at the kitchen window, watching fat flakes drift down, coating the world in white, making everything look clean and new. Behind her, the house hummed with controlled chaos. On had found a new job. Smaller firm, better hours. A boss who'd looked at Eva's situation and said, family comes first. Always. Dorothy had helped with expenses during the 3-week gap between jobs. And Rowan's severance had covered the rest. They'd made it work the way families do. The kids were upstairs doing homework, or pretending to. More likely, they were building forts and arguing about whose turn it was to pick the movie for Friday night. Normal things, beautiful things. Things Eva had never thought she'd have. Hey, Rowan's arm slid around her waist from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. You okay? Just thinking. She leaned back into him, wallowed and warm and safe. About how different everything is now. How I almost missed this because I was too scared to hope. Rowan pressed a kiss to her temple. I'm glad you stayed. Me too. But the peace was fragile. 2 days ago, they'd met with Janet Reeves. The lawyer, Vincent Cole, had recommended sharp, experienced. And furious on Eva's behalf, Jeanette had laid out the situation with brutal clarity. Preston was filing charges, insurance fraud, filing a false death certificate. Both felonies. If convicted, Eva was looking at 5 to 10 years. But they had a defense, 12 years of medical records, courtesy of Dr. Ellis photos of injuries documented over the years, and the video. Security footage from the hospital showing Preston threatening Dr. Ellis to destroy evidence. The trial was set for February, 2 months to prepare. 2 months of depositions and strategy sessions and sleepless nights. 2 months of Eva reliving every moment of 12 years she'd tried to forget. But she wasn't doing it alone. 2 weeks before Christmas, Rowan got the call, "Mr. Ashford, we need you to come pick up Wyatt. He's been suspended for 3 days." Rowan left work immediately, found his son sitting in the principal's office, knuckles bruised, lip split, but chin raised in defiance. What happened? Rowan kept his voice level. The principal, a thin woman named Mrs. Harrison, jumped in. Wyatt attacked another student, Marcus Henderson. Unprovoked. It wasn't unprovoked. Wyatt's voice was fierce. He said Evie was a gold digger, that she's just using you for money, that when she goes to jail, we'll be better off. Rowan's jaw tightened. "I see, Mr. Ashford. I understand this is a difficult situation for your family, but we cannot tolerate violence. I understand. And Wyatt knows fighting isn't the answer." Rowan looked at his son. "Don't you?" Wyatt's chin wobbled, but he nodded. "Good. We'll discuss consequences at home." "Thank you, Mrs. Harrison." They drove home in silence. When they pulled into the driveway, Wyatt finally spoke. "I'm sorry I got suspended, but I'm not sorry I hit him." "Why not?" "Because he was lying about Evie. And nobody gets to lie about our family." Rowan turned off the car, looked at his son, really looked. Wyatt had grown in the last year, not just physically, but emotionally. He'd lost his mother, grieved, acted out, pushed away anyone who tried to help, until Evie had shown up and stayed, had let them test her and never left, had loved them without conditions. And now Wyatt was defending her the only way a 9-year-old knew how, with his fists. "I understand why you did it," Rowan said quietly, "and I'm proud that you want to protect Evie. But violence isn't protection. It's just more hurt. Then how do I help?" Wyatt's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "How do I make people stop saying mean things about her? You can't control what other people say, but you can control how you respond." Rowan put his hand on Wyatt's shoulder. "When people say things that aren't true, you can correct them calmly, or you can ignore them, or you can just remember that their opinion doesn't change who Evie actually is. But what if she loses the trial?" There it was, the real fear. What if she has to go to jail and we lose her like we lost Mom? Rowan pulled his son into a hug. "Even if that happens, she's not gone forever. Jail isn't death. And she'll come back. Promise?" "I promise. And more than that, I promise we're going to fight with everything we have to make sure she doesn't go to jail at all." Christmas came anyway, despite the trial looming, despite the media circus, despite everything. Ron and Eva decided the kids needed normal, needed joy, needed Christmas, so they put up a tree, all 7 of them, decorating with mismatched ornaments and tangled lights, and more enthusiasm than skill. Finn insisted on putting the star on top, even though he was too short. Tucker and Wyatt had to lift him while Bryn and Harper shouted directions, and Ava and Rowan documented it all with their phones. Later, after the kids were asleep, Rowan and Eva sat on the couch, tree lights casting soft colors across their faces. "I got you something," Rowan said. Pulling a small box from his pocket, Eva's breath caught. Rowan, "It's not what you think," he smiled. opened the box. Inside was a simple silver necklace, a pendant in the shape of a semicolon. A semicolon means the sentence isn't over, Rowan explained, his voice soft. The author could have ended it, but chose to keep going instead. He took the necklace out, fastened it around her neck. Your story didn't end with Preston. It's still being written, and I want to be part of the chapters ahead. Eva touched the pendant, tears streaming down her face. I love you. She kissed him. Gentle and grateful and full of promise. I love you so much. I love you too. Rowan pulled her close. And no matter what happens at that trial, that doesn't change. Christmas morning was chaos. 5 kids tearing through presents, wrapping paper everywhere. Squeals of delight and sibling arguments and breakfast burned because everyone was too excited to pay attention. Perfect, beautifully, perfectly imperfect. Dorothy came over for dinner, brought her famous apple pie, told stories about Rowan as a child that made the kids howl with laughter and Rowan groan with embarrassment. For one day, they forgot about trials and lawyers and Preston Hart. For one day, they were just a family, celebrating together. January was devoted to preparation. Jeanette Reeves became a regular presence in their lives. Eva spent hours going through medical records with her, explaining each injury, each excuse she'd given, each time she'd covered for Preston. It was exhausting, reliving 12 years of systematic cruelty, but necessary. The prosecution is going to paint you as a liar, Janet said one afternoon, not unkindly, but firm. They're going to say you faked your death for attention, for money. To hurt Preston, I know, so we need to be prepared. When his lawyer asks why you didn't just leave, what do you say? Eva had practiced this, that I tried multiple times, and every time Preston found me, dragged me back, made it clear that if I ever left for real, he'd kill me. Good. When he asks why you didn't go to the police, because Preston has connections. The one time I tried to file a report, it disappeared. And Preston made sure I knew he was untouchable. Janet nodded, made notes. And when he brings up the insurance money, Eva's hands clenched. I didn't know about the policy. Preston set it up without telling me. I never filed a claim, never touched a penny. He's the one who tried to collect after the fire, which is fraud on his part, not yours. Janet's voice went sharp. Remember that. He's the one who tried to profit from your supposed death. They went through it again and again until Eva could recite the answers in her sleep, until the words lost their emotional weight and became just facts, just truth. Meanwhile, Vincent Cole had become an unexpected ally. The private investigator Preston had hired to find Eva had switched sides completely. He'd given them everything. Photos, surveillance notes, recordings of conversations with Preston that revealed the man's true nature. Why are you doing this? Eva had asked when they first met. Vincent had looked at her with sad, knowing eyes, because I used to be like him. And my wife was brave enough to leave. I want to make sure you can too. He'd testify at the trial. Against his former client, it was a risk. Could destroy his business, his reputation. But he was doing it anyway. Because some things mattered more than money. late January. 3 weeks before the trial, Eva was at Second Chapter Books when Preston showed up. She was shelving returns when the bell chimed. She looked up and froze. Preston stood in the doorway, still handsome, still polished, still wearing that perfect smile that had fooled everyone for years. "Hello, Evangeline." His voice was silk over steel. "I've missed you." Eva couldn't move, couldn't breathe. 5 months of healing evaporated in an instant. She was 19 again. Terrified. Trapped, Preston walked closer, slow and predatory. "Did you really think you could run from me? That I wouldn't find you? Get out." Lorraine appeared from the back room, dawn in hand. "I'm calling the police. I'm just talking to my wife." Preston's smile didn't waver. "That's not illegal." "There's a restraining order." Lorraine's voice was sharp. "You're violating it right now." The door opened again. Rowan stepped in, and the temperature in the room dropped. Eva had called him the moment she'd seen Preston through the window, and he'd come, get away from her. His voice was quiet, dangerous. Preston turned, sized Rowan up. "Ah, the savior." "How noble." I said, "Get away from her." Rowan moved to stand between Preston and Eva, pulled out his phone, started recording. "She's under my protection now. She's my wife. She's a person, not property. And you lost any claim to her the day you put your hands on her." Preston's smile finally cracked. "You don't know anything about her. About us. She's a liar. She faked her own death, stole money. And you're harboring a criminal? I know enough." Rowan's voice stayed level, calm. "I know you beat her for 12 years. I know you killed her baby. I know you're here violating a restraining order, which means you're the criminal." Preston's eyes went cold. "You think you can protect her?" "Money. Connections. I'll bury both of you." "Try." The door opened again. Detective Sarah Brooks walked in, badge out. Jeanette had called her the moment Rowan had texted that Preston was at the bookstore. Preston Hart. "You're under arrest for violating a restraining order." Preston's face went pale, then red with rage. "This is harassment. This is justice. Turn around." Hands behind your back, as the detective cuffed him. Preston looked at Eva one last time. "This isn't over." His voice was a promise and a threat. "I'll see you in court." They took him away, and Eva collapsed into Rowan's arms, shaking so hard her teeth chattered. "I've got you." Rowan held her tight. "I've got you, and I'm not letting go." The trial began on February 12th. The courthouse steps were packed with media. Cameras and microphones and reporters shouting questions. Eva walked between Rowan and Janet Head, high shooter's back, wearing a simple navy dress that Janet had picked out. Conservative. Respectable. The armor of a woman who had nothing to hide. Inside, the courtroom was cold and sterile. Wooden benches. High ceilings. A judge's bench that looked like a throne. Preston sat at the defendant's table, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, looking like the successful businessman he was, not the monster he'd been behind closed doors. His lawyers flanked him, 3 of them, all expensive suits and shark smiles. Eva sat at the prosecution table, Janet on one side, an assistant prosecutor named Michael Chen on the other. And behind her in the gallery sat the people who mattered to Ran. His mother, Dorothy, Lorraine from the bookstore, Dr. Ellis, Vincent Cole. And in the front row, clutching each other's hands, 5 9-year-old children who'd begged to be there, to support Evie, to show her she wasn't alone. Judge Patricia Lawson entered. Everyone stood. The judge was 54. Silver hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Janet had told Eva that Judge Lawson had been a prosecutor before becoming a judge, had specialized in domestic violence cases, had survived abuse herself before law school. She would be fair, but she would also understand. Be seated. The judge's voice carried. We're here today for the case of the State versus Preston Hart. Multiple charges, including domestic violence, assault, coercion, and witness intimidation. She looked at Preston, then at Eva. This court will hear testimony from both sides, and then we will let justice decide. The prosecution went first. Michael Chen laid out the timeline. 12 years of documented abuse, medical records, police reports that had mysteriously disappeared, witness statements. Then he called Dr. Margaret Ellis to the stand. The doctor was 60 now, gray-haired and steady-eyed. She'd been the only one who knew, the only one Eva had trusted for 12 years. Dr. Ellis had documented every injury, every lie, waiting for the day Eva would be ready to run. Dr. Ellis, how long did you treat Evangeline Hart? 12 years. From the time she married Preston until the night she came to me after the miscarriage. And in that time, what did you observe? Repeated injuries consistent with domestic violence, broken ribs, fractured wrist, contusions, lacerations. She always had an excuse. Fell downstairs, walked into a door. But the pattern was clear. Did you ever confront Mrs. Hart about the abuse? Multiple times. But she was too frightened to leave. Preston had isolated her, controlled her finances, convinced her she couldn't survive without him. What about the pregnancy? Dr. Ellis's voice went hard. Eva came to me in her 12th week, terrified but hopeful. It was a miracle pregnancy after years of infertility. She begged me not to tell Preston until she was further along. She was afraid of his reaction. Why? Because he'd blamed her for not conceiving. Made her believe it was her failure as a woman. She was terrified he wouldn't believe the pregnancy was real, or that he'd hurt her again. Preston's lawyer stood. Objection. Speculation, but the damage was done. The jury had seen Dr. Ellis's face, heard the conviction in her voice. What happened the night of the miscarriage? Eva came to the emergency room. Severe abdominal trauma, internal bleeding. She was barely conscious. Dr. Ellis's voice shook. When I examined her, the injuries were consistent with being struck repeatedly in the stomach. She lost the baby, nearly died herself. Did she tell you who hurt her? She didn't have to. I'd seen Preston's handiwork for 12 years. I knew. What did you do? I saved her life. Then I helped her disappear. Gasps from the gallery. Preston's lawyer shot to his feet, Your Honor. The witness just admitted to saving a woman's life. Dr. Ellis cut him off. Voice fierce. Eva came to me terrified. said Preston would kill her if she stayed. I believed her. So yes, I helped her fake her death. I'd do it again. Judge Lawson banged her gavel. Order. She looked at Dr. Ellis. Doctor, you understand you may face charges for your actions? I understand, and I accept that. But I will not apologize for saving that woman's life. Next came Lorraine, the bookstore owner with her own scars and her own story. I hired Eva in late March. She was jumpy, nervous, flinched when men raised their voices. I recognized the signs because I'd been there myself. She lifted her wrist, showed the scar. My husband gave me this 30 years ago, right before I left him. What did you observe during Eva's employment? A woman rebuilding herself, getting stronger every day. Until Preston's investigators showed up, what happened then? She shut down. Pure terror. I saw it in her eyes. Did Preston Hart himself ever come to the bookstore? Yes. In late January, he cornered Eva, threatened her. I called the police. What did he say to her? He told her she was his, that she'd always be his, that she couldn't escape him. Lorraine's voice went cold. Those are the words of an abuser. Not a grieving husband. Then Vincent Cole, the private investigator who'd switched sides. Mr. Cole, Preston Hart hired you to find his wife. Is that correct? Yes. And did you find her? I did. Why didn't you report her location to your client? Vincent was silent for a moment. Then he looked at Preston. Because I read the medical files, saw the photos, understood what kind of man I was working for. He turned to the jury. I have a daughter, and I used to be like Preston Hart. Used to think I owned my wife. Used to hurt her when she didn't obey. His voice cracked. My wife left me, took our daughter, and she was right to do it. I spent years in therapy learning to be better, to control my rage, to understand that love isn't ownership. So what did you do instead of reporting Mrs. Hart's location? I gave her the evidence I'd collected, helped her find a lawyer, and I came here to testify against Preston Hart. Objection. Preston's lawyer was on his feet. The witness's personal redemption arc is not relevant. It's relevant to his credibility, Your Honor. Michael countered. I'll allow it. Judge Lawson nodded. Continue, Mr. Cole. Do you believe Evangeline Hart faked her death to commit fraud? No. I believe she faked her death to survive. There's a difference. Finally, they called Eva. She stood, smoothed her dress, walked to the witness stand on legs that shook but held. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Michael Chen started with softballs, her background, her marriage, the early years. Then he got harder, Mrs. Hart. Can you describe the abuse you suffered? Eva took a breath. It started small. Criticism, insults. He said I was stupid, worthless, that no one else would ever want me. Her voice was steady, strong. Then it escalated. He'd grab me too hard, shake me, push me against walls. But he was always careful not to leave visible marks. When did it get worse? After 3 years of trying to conceive, Preston became obsessed with having children. When I didn't get pregnant, he blamed me, said I was broken. A failure as a woman. Tears pricked her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. He started hitting me, punching. kicking. Always where clothes would hide it. Why didn't you leave? The question everyone asked, the question that blamed victims for their own abuse, because I was terrified, because Preston controlled everything. Our money, our home, my access to transportation. He'd isolated me from family and friends. I had nowhere to go. She looked at the jury, and because he told me he'd kill me if I tried to leave, and I believed him. What happened when you got pregnant? I was overjoyed, terrified, but hopeful. I thought maybe a baby would change things, make him happy. Make him stop? She wiped her eyes. I didn't tell him right away. I wanted to be sure, to get past the dangerous first weeks. But one night he came home drunk from a business dinner, accused me of flirting with his partner. Because I smiled when the man complimented my dress, her voice broke. He started hitting me. I begged him to stop. Told him I was pregnant. Thought it would make him stop, did it? No. He called me a liar. Said I was trying to trap him. He hit me harder. Silence in the courtroom. I woke up in the hospital. Dr. Ellis told me I'd lost the baby, that I'd nearly died. What did you do? I realized I had two choices, stay and die eventually, or run. Eva's voice went hard, so I ran. Dr. Ellis helped me fake my death, gave me money, a bus ticket, a chance. Did you file an insurance claim? No, I didn't even know about the policy. Preston set it up without telling me, so the fraud charge is his, not mine. He's the one who tried to collect money on my death. Michael nodded. One more question, Mrs. Hart. If you could do it all again, would you? Eva looked at Preston, then at Rowan and the kids. Yes, because running saved my life. And it brought me to people who taught me what real love looks like. Then came Preston's lawyer, a man named Richard Thornton, 60, silver-haired, practiced smile. He tried everything. Painted Eva as manipulative, attention-seeking, a liar. But Eva stayed calm, answered every question, never wavered. And when Thornton finally sat down, defeated, Eva felt something she hadn't felt in 12 years. Power, her own voice, her own truth. The final piece of evidence was the video security footage from the hospital, Preston in Dr. Ellis's office, looming over her desk. Voice captured clearly on camera. Delete the files. All of them, or I'll have your license revoked. You're just a small-town doctor. I have lawyers, connections. You'll lose everything. Dr. Ellis's voice, steady and brave. No. Those records stay. Evangeline deserves justice. Evangeline is dead, is she? Preston's face went cold. Delete the files. The video ended. The courtroom sat in stunned silence, because that wasn't a grieving husband. That was a man covering his tracks. A man who knew exactly what he'd done. Closing arguments took 2 hours. Thornton painted Preston as a successful businessman, victimized by a manipulative wife. Janet painted Eva as a survivor who'd done what she had to do to escape a monster. Then the jury deliberated. Eva sat in a conference room with Rowan and the kids waiting. 3 hours passed, then 5, then 7. What if they don't believe me? Eva whispered. Rowan took her hand. They will. At hour 9, the bailiff came, jury's ready. They filed back into the courtroom, hearts pounding. The jury foreman stood. A woman in her 60s, kind face. Steady eyes. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of domestic violence in the first degree, how do you find? Guilty. Eva's knees went weak. Rowan grabbed her hand. On the charge of assault, guilty. On the charge of coercion, guilty. On the charge of witness intimidation, guilty. One by one, every charge, guilty. Guilty. Preston's face went white, then red. He stood. This is ridiculous. She's the liar. She's the... Mr. Hart, sit down. Judge Lawson's voice was steel. Or I'll hold you in contempt. Preston sat. But his eyes found Eva, cold, promising this wasn't over. Judge Lawson turned to Eva. Mrs. Hart, the fraud charges against you are dismissed. You were acting under duress, fleeing for your life. This court finds no evidence of criminal intent. Eva burst into tears. Relief, joy, freedom, Mr. Hart. You are hereby sentenced to 18 years in the state penitentiary without possibility of parole. For the first 10 years, the judge paused. Additionally, Dr. Margaret Ellis will face a medical board review for her role in assisting Mrs. Hart. However, given the circumstances, this court will recommend leniency. The board will make the final determination. She banged her gavel. Bailiff, take him into custody. As they led Preston away in handcuffs, he looked at Eva one last time, but Eva didn't flinch, didn't cower. She stood tall, free, finally free. 6 months later, August brought warm sun and clear skies. Perfect weather for a garden wedding. Eva stood in the bedroom she shared with Rowan now, looking at herself in the mirror. Simple white dress. Flowers from their garden in her hair. The semicolon necklace at her throat, and surrounding her 5 children, Wyatt and Tucker in small suits. Finn holding the ring pillow with fierce concentration. Bryn and Harper in lavender dresses with flowers woven into their curls. You look beautiful, Evie. Harper breathed, like a princess. Finn added even knelt, gathered them close. You know this doesn't change anything, right? I'm already yours. This just makes it official. We know. Wyatt's voice was gruff, trying to sound grown-up. But it's still cool. They walked downstairs together, out into the backyard where chairs were set up, where Rowan stood under an arch of flowers they'd all built together. Dorothy sat in the front row, crying happy tears. Dr. Ellis and Lorraine sat together. Vincent Cole beside them. Janet Reeves was there, and Michael Chen, and Judge Lawson, who'd agreed to officiate small gathering, but everyone who mattered. As Eva walked toward Rowan, Finn stopped, looked up at her with serious eyes. Our mom would have liked you. His voice carried in the quiet. She would have wanted Dad to be happy again. And us too. Eva's vision blurred with tears. Finn, I'm not trying to replace her. I could never, we know. Bryn stepped forward. You're not our mom. You're our Evie. That's different, but it's ours. The ceremony was short, sweet. Judge Lawson spoke about family, about choosing each other, about love being stronger than fear. When it came time for vows, Rowan took Eva's hands. Almost 2 years ago, I found you on a bench, broken, scared, running from a monster. His voice was thick with emotion, but you weren't broken. You were surviving. And you taught me that healing isn't linear, that it's okay to be scared and brave at the same time. That family isn't just blood, it's choice. He squeezed her hands. I choose you, Evangeline Hart. Every day. For the rest of my life, Eva wiped her eyes. Almost 2 years ago, you stopped when you could have driven past. You offered kindness when you could have walked away. You gave me a family when I thought I'd lost everything. Her voice broke. You taught me that I'm not worthless, that I deserve love, that broken doesn't mean finished. She smiled through tears. I choose you, Rowan Ashford, and these 5 beautiful children. Every day. Forever, they exchanged rings, syllable bands, engraved inside with a date they met, November 15th. The night everything changed, Judge Lawson smiled. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Rowan kissed Eva. And 5 children cheered so loud, the neighbors probably heard later after the celebrations, after cake and dancing and laughter. After the kids had gone to bed, exhausted and happy, Darwan and Eva stood in their garden under the stars. Thank you, Eva whispered. For what? For seeing me. For stopping. For giving me more than shelter. For giving me a family. Rowan pulled her close. You gave us just as much. Maybe more. You taught the kids that it's okay to love again without forgetting. You taught me that broken doesn't mean finished. He kissed her forehead. And you taught all of us that family isn't about biology or obligation. It's about choosing each other. Every single day, Eva looked up at him. Stars reflected in her eyes. I choose you. I choose you too. They stood together in the garden Eva had planted with 5 eager helpers, surrounded by flowers that had grown from nothing, just like their family, just like Eva herself. And somewhere in the distance, a semicolon pendant caught the moonlight. A reminder that the sentence wasn't over, that the story was still being written, that healing was possible, that love, real love, could grow from ashes. That family, true family, was built on choice, and that sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. Inside the house, 5 children slept peacefully. Sav loved, well, they'd lost a mother to cancer, but they'd gained another through choice, not replacement. Addition, because love doesn't divide, it multiplies. And in the morning, they'd wake up together, all 7 of them, a family not bound by blood, but by something stronger. Choice, healing hope, and the fierce determination to keep choosing each other every single day, no matter what. Dr. Margaret Ellis kept her medical license. The board ruled she'd acted to save a life. Vincent Cole's business didn't suffer. In fact, he started getting referrals from domestic violence organizations. People who needed someone found who would actually help them escape. Preston Hart served his sentence, never showed remorse, never apologized. But it didn't matter anymore because Eva wasn't waiting for his apology. She had everything she needed in a house on Maple Street with a man who loved her and 5 children who called her Evie. And every morning when she woke up, she touched the semicolon pendant at her throat and remembered her story wasn't over. It was just beginning.